Hi, I'm Geof Hewitt, and I want to thank the Vermont State Parks, particularly Elmore State Park where we are today, for inviting us to enjoy their amenities, the air, the sun, the wind, and the water. And I hope that you will join us in writing a little bit, maybe in response to what we discover today. Have fun. Thanks for being with us. I've been working on a short poem, a haiku, and I thought I'd read it to you. And while I'm reading it, this is a writing workshop after all. While I'm reading it, why don't you go get your writing materials and come back here, and by then maybe I'll be done with the poem. We're here at Elmore State Park, enjoying a very quiet morning, 8:30 in the morning. The beach is still empty. And here it is. Smart-ass butterfly pretends the wind is blowing where he wants to go. Smart-ass butterfly pretends the wind is blowing where he wants to go. Smart-ass butterfly pretends the wind is blowing where he wants to go. So I'm wondering whether I can revise this into something that has a sharper feeling. I still like that first line, smart-ass butterfly makes it seem the wind blows where he wants to go. Or what if I just ignored the 5-7-5 syllabic structure and just went for a different feeling? Smart-ass butterfly, the wind shoves him, and he shoves back. To me, that feels a little bit more like the traditional Japanese, even though it doesn't fit the syllabic pattern that we in the United States like to impose on our haiku. You know, form, the actual form of 5-7-5 is valuable because it forces you to hone the language. And yet, once it's honed, sometimes you want to let go and free it up and go back to maybe a more formless haiku. So I define haiku as a poem that has 3 lines. And that's it. As a matter of fact, I define poetry as any writing where the author, not the typesetter, decides where to end the lines. Poetry? Fine art form. Poems? Objects, gifts, something one can give away. And whatever you write, if you call it a poem, even if you're letting the typesetter decide where to end the lines, to me, that's where it's at. So here's a poem I wrote that is a prose poem. I call it a poem because I wrote it. I can do whatever I want. The typesetter decides where to end the lines on this poem. It's a winter poem. You got to flip your mind a little bit towards winter. So I was coming around the corner and the car ahead of me has stopped and I'm on sheer ice. And my car starts to skid and there's this guy on the sidewalk with a shovel. And just before my car crunches into the car ahead of me, he throws a shovelful of sand under my rear tires, and my car comes to a stop 10 feet from disaster. Half an hour later, I'm at the Xerox machine with a job I've got to have copied in time for the mail, which leaves in 10 minutes, and the machine jams, and I'm trying to get the paper out, and something throws a spark, so smoke is starting to curl from the ink drum, and I'm trying to figure whether I should run to the men's room for a handful of water when this guy appears with a shovel, throws a shovel full of sand into the machine's underbelly, and the smoking stops. I think the most fun for me in writing that poem and in revising it was breaking the rules of common English grammar. Poem starts out in the present tense or present perfect. So I was past perfect, So I was coming around the corner and the car in front of me has stopped and I'm on sheer ice. Suddenly, I'm in the present tense. This is the way conversation happens. And for me, the more conversational the poem is, the more likely it is to find a reader, or in your case, a listener. So I'm standing here carrying on about poems, and I look at the bench that I'd been sitting on, and son of a gun, there's this heart rock that somebody has found on the beach and left here for others to enjoy. So, of course, I got a poem about it. Not about this heart rock, but about heart rocks that I found while I was beachcombing in Maine. It's called The Perfect Heart. Scouring the beach for stones tumbled smooth, he also looks for those in the shape of a valentine. So many triangles, but most without the divot up top and rounded shoulders funneling down to a point. The perfect heart. He gathers all potential runners-up, maybe 20 or 30, that in a pinch could pass for love tokens. But underneath seas clutter, the perfect heart awaits uncovering another tide, another season, another year. He shares the take with his wife, who spies the least likely, damaged and cockeyed like a child abused at birth. A rough approximation of what one might select, proclaiming it the one she thinks will pass. Who can forecast the choice of one with whom one has spent more than half a lifetime? Who can know another's standards for the perfect heart? So this is a virtual writing workshop, and you've gathered your materials, and I hope you've found a comfortable place to sit and write. And we're going to write for 7 minutes, just 7 minutes. And the idea is to write so fast that you're surprising yourself. And to help us out, Ryan Neuswanger, our cameraman, is going to capture 7 minutes of varied visual images. And as you watch those, you will chronicle, I hope, some or all, or you may just focus on one and not even look at the screen again for 7 minutes, pursuing that one image, or capture them all and make it into a kind of list poem. And because I want people to write as fast as they can so that they can surprise themselves, I run it as a race. And I ask you, and I shall do the same, put your pen way up in the air, and I'll give you a countdown. And we'll see who can write not the best, but the most in 7 minutes' time. On your marks. Oh, got to make sure your pen is way up. No bent elbows. That would give you a head start. On your marks. Get set. Spelling and neatness don't count. Right. 2, 1, half a second. Time's up. So, you're wondering, who is this I'm writing with? Is it somebody I just happened to meet in the park? Well, yes and no. It's actually my old friend who came here to the park today, Tess Taylor, who works with Ryan at the Vermont Humanities Council. And Tess has agreed to write with me today, and I hope you're doing the same thing. Now, once you have this rough draft of scribble, what you gonna do with it? And I want to suggest, not for now, but later when you come back to it and you have fresh eyes. For now, maybe you could make a list of verbs. Twirl, scrunch, lift, blink, shield. Make a list of 10, 15 words, all verbs. And then, when you go back to this piece that you've just written, see whether some of those verbs might be surprising and right to squeeze into the draft that you've already created. They say this lake is shallow. No good. This shallow lake accepts footprints. A man-made lake with only one pair of nesting loons, except I don't see them today. Maybe they're nesting. But 2 days ago, both were enjoying the surface of glass, ignoring kayaks, the windsurfers, just now and then diving for a snack. How long they stayed under. And try to predict with your eyes where they'll resurface, maybe 2, maybe 3 minutes later. But today it's just a human mom with baby strapped to her belly and leading the infant's older sister through the shallows. Lake water sparkles around the little girl's knees as she breaks water, and behind her, the whole 30 acres of water gleams like hot glass. And currents show how the water runs both east and west at the same time, depending where you focus. Me, I focus on the human parade in this life. Birds are nice, but really, I want people. So I didn't mess with the verbs in there, but presumably, you are finding places to put verbs in that will surprise and yet capture the vision that Ryan has visually provided you. And as I was saying to Tess earlier, this is all visual. Well, can you bring a smell in? Can you imagine what it might be smelling like here where we're filming? Can you taste the air a little bit humid? Would that be appropriate? What can you feel? What are you imagining hearing other than my voice? Can you work that in? All of that, you just got right now just a scattering of words that can be pumped up, if you like them, can be pumped up in various ways. Tess, would you read yours, please?
I just wrote down thoughts. Because I thought, well, I'll either put things in or take things out. Maybe make 3 poems, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So mother and child on the beach, she tries to teach him, but she is doing her own thing. Cars in the distance, heard but not seen. Kayak gliding across the stillest water before the onset of swimmers. A brook in the woods. Bees on Ryan's boom as he's filming this. They were very curious. A cardinal is letting us know he's there. Yellow buttercups lean toward the sunlight. A patch of forget-me-nots. So still in the path. I just bought a bird book. So many songs. Why did I wait so long? Or does it matter? Just to listen and enjoy.
Thank you. Thank you. I love the digression that happens.
Yeah.
You know, we're taught all the time, you know, to use the right English and to stick with the subject, but the human mind doesn't do that. And to actually shift from one to another, it's drawn together by your personality, by your voice, by your observation, and it may not be linear, but by golly, it's more interesting to read or to hear when there are those little jumps. It's delicate when we touch each other. A careful mistake will do, but nothing more. It's delicate to this learning, how even with degrees, no one said there'd be a job, but there is work. Oh, there is work. How many times I vacuum each week is a measure of unemployment, though vacuuming is nothing I do for enjoyment. I want me one of them riding vacuums, metallic green with special bumpers so I don't mar the furniture as I'm whizzing the room, caromming off the pillars of the old upright piano and making the long run down the hall, wearing the safety helmet that came with the unit and wielding the magic wand attachment at cobwebs as I glide by. Cobwebs, don't make me think of them. Let me picture a spider's more symmetrical effort, not the chaotic gathering of dust in strands that hang from ceilings. Let me think of spider webs, the organization of desire. A spider's fractal-like construction to ward off starvation. A sticky silver trampoline with plenty of space to fly through. Just avoid the setter, claims the stupid moth that fouls the whole web and isn't anything the spider wants. Just a dusty pair of wings fluttered to a mealy core. The cobweb of the animal world. Not to speak of the damaged web to rebuild, for though resilient, a spider web is delicate. And delicate is like touch, like love, like learning, like the finest, most expensive, tiniest chocolate you're only supposed to have one of. So I like that poem because it breaks the rules. It ends with a preposition. It has, I want me, one of them, riding vacuums, agrammatical. And it starts out, you just think you're in for it. You think you're in for poetry. It's delicate when we touch each other, a careful mistake will do. It's delicate, this love we carry. Come on, let's get to the vacuum cleaner and the moth. So there's digression, you know? And that's the way the human mind works.
Yeah.
So I
I know.
defend my agrammatical digressive poems with my word of honor. And you've done it yourself. Now we need to revise it and turn it into the 3 poems that you think
Sure.
might work. So here at Elmore State Park, we found this stream, and when I looked at it, I thought, oh, I'm glad I brought my stone gathering poem with me, because this reminds me of Cadiz Falls in Enosburg, Vermont, where for many years I played in the water and with my neighbor John Cote appropriated a whole bunch of stones, large river rocks, loaded them into his pickup, and he built those stones into a chimney for his then new house. So afterwards, I reflected on that experience and wrote Stone Gathering for John Cote. These marks in stone, these pocks were forced into its surface when some ancient rain lost its juice to stopped momentum and saved its shape, splatting by pure luck into rock that hadn't hardened yet. Then the river played its part to roll the stone, to smooth, and to protect the finished rock. You say, pick flat ones only, and the big are best. It means less work. A snail falls off the one I'm working from the stream bed, given up its home, losing suction, gone back to the brook, perhaps to find another stone. I heave the snail's ex-home up onto the bank and sit on it, and there decide this rock of every century in the house you built will brace someone whose hand, feeling the work, stopped where the notion struck. It's shaped as much by heaven's gentle water as by men who build it into walls. You know, it's a very poetic poem. It kind of calls to mind the first lines of that delicate poem that I read. It's delicate when we touch each other, a careful mistake. That ending, it's shaped as much by heaven's gentle waters as by men who build it into walls. But I wrote it 35 years ago, and back then I was trying to be poetic. Now I think a poem works better if it surprises within its own being. We're really dealing with visual poems, given that we're constrained by the fact that we have visual images. Want to bring in other images, but 80% of Americans' experience is visual. 80%. That is to say that we are much more in the visual world than the world of our other senses. Where did I get that 80%? Rod Ruth, a visual artist and illustrator who was very active in the 70s and 80s. So here's a visual poem, if you're willing to think of it as visual. It's called Valentine. I have always loved those tiny specks that float within my eyes at bedtime, eyelids dropping, window shades unveiling. What was there all day, but all rolled up, couldn't see. And the unrolling lids reveal, or is it darkness lets us see what we never acknowledged in the sun or universe of feeling, like my love for these curious little floaters. They come and go and sometimes merge into faces like tonight. A dozen of them converged into JFK, riding the limousine with the top down, that smile, a close-up on the lips, then drifting apart, they scattered to the edges. That's not poetry, but I think it's a poem. I wrote it, I can call it a poem. Yeah. This has been a blast for me. I hope it was fun for Tess and for Ryan. And I hope you enjoyed it. You know, we're experimenting with how to make things happen during this strange summer. And one of the things we're thinking about is how it might be possible for you to send in a poem, maybe the one you wrote today after you've revised it, maybe thrown a couple of verbs in. If you would send that to the Vermont Humanities Council, maybe there's a way we can share those poems and discuss them in some kind of a follow-up. And Ryan has said he will put up an address for you to email your poem. Make sure that your name appears with it so we can give proper credit if indeed we decide to follow up. I want to thank the Vermont Humanities Council for sponsoring this activity. Tess Taylor, Brian Neuswanger, and the Department of Libraries and the Institute of Museum and Library Services for their support of the entire First Wednesdays season. Also, Bear Pond Books and the Keelan Family Foundation for sponsoring First Wednesdays throughout 2019 and 2020. Thank you for being here with us at Elmore State Park.